So let's look at processing some other raw files. So just to reiterate, I have shot all of these images in raw format, and this once again allows me to take advantage of all of the data that's embedded within the raw file, as opposed to shooting in a JPEG or a TIFF. So I have 4 images here, and they're all exterior images taken on a holiday, and we're going to process these images. So we'll start with the first one, and if you look at this image, it's photographed on a bright sunny day, very harsh shadows, which creates some unique lighting problems. And the one thing that I want to ensure is that I retain the detail in the cloud. So once again, we're addressing this issue of what we consider to be a white value in a photograph and a dark value. So for starters, I'm going to come up to my color sampler tool. And this is a tool I like to use a lot, and I'm just going to place one right on the clouds here and one in the shadow area there. And that's all I'll do. And I want to come up to my shadow clipping warning and my highlight clipping warning and make sure those are turned on, and I'll just toggle these on and off, and we can tell those are on by that white box around the highlight clipping warning function. And we'll look at our histogram, and for starters, that's a fairly nicely balanced histogram. We don't have any strong peaks in the shadow area, and we don't have any in the highlight area. So that tells me the exposure in camera is good, and it gives me some latitude to correct this image. You'll notice my white balance is as shot, meaning that's the white balance that I used at the time of taking this picture. And all of these pictures are taken with a white balance ranging from 5800 to 5100. And that range of white balance is what we could consider normal under normal lighting conditions, sort of midday, that kind of time frame. So what we'll do first is I want to correct for the shadow areas. So I'm going to grab my shadow slider and I'm going to boost them way up like that. So all of a sudden we can see the tremendous power that we have using the raw file format, in that it allows me to extract all of this detail in areas that we would normally consider to be too dark. And I'm going to just boost this contrast a little bit. So as I increase my shadows and make them brighter, I can have this image start to look a little bit flat. So the contrast builds some greater tonal variation between the highlights and the shadows. And I'm looking at my sky right now, and perhaps I want to make some adjustments to that. Now there's a great filter right here called the graduated filter, and I'm going to select that. And you'll notice as soon as I clicked it, my entire menu here changed. And I'm going to select the new button under graduated filter. And what this does is it creates a targeted adjustment in a specific area of the image. So with this filter activated and selected, I'm going to hold down my mouse key and draw out this box, which creates my graduated filter. Now, nothing's happening. All I've done is I've said to Photoshop, I want to make an adjustment in this part of the photograph. Now the clouds and the sky look actually pretty good in camera, but maybe I just want to enhance them and add a little more drama. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my clouds a little bit brighter to add some contrast to that. And that looks pretty good right now. So I'm going to leave that as is, and I want to come out of this filter. And one of the easiest ways to come out of this filter, I'm just going to come up and click the hand tool, and that brings me back to my main menu, which we looked at in the other videos. So I'm back in basic. But what I want to do is isolate the blue in the sky. So I can come into this filter called HSL adjustments, which stand for hue, saturation, and luminance. And what it does is it allows me to target specific colors and make adjustments. So I'm going to go into my blue slider, and I'm just going to darken down the sky a little bit, just like that. And maybe I want to add a little bit of saturation to it, just like that. And with the hue, I can change sort of the color of that blue. So I could make it go almost a turquoise green or a purple. Well, neither one of those looks realistic. So I'm just going to add a very, very small adjustment like that, and just make that blue pop out of the image just a little bit more. Then I'm going to come up to my sharpening tool, and I will sharpen the image overall. Maybe about a factor of about 100 and a radius of 1.5. Now the cropping of this image is a little problematic. I don't really need to see all this foreground area in here, so I'm going to come up to my crop tool. And there's my crop tool. I'm just going to start in this corner, and holding my mouse key down, I'm going to drag that image like this. And as soon as I let go of the mouse, I have a preview of the area which I'm cropping out. Now it actually hasn't cropped the image yet. And what I like to do is I just come up and click the hand tool, and now it crops that image. So I would actually leave this image like this, and that's probably all I would do. And when I process this image as a Photoshop file, I could essentially go straight to print. So I don't necessarily have to make any further corrections in Photoshop. We're doing it right here in the raw processor.